Hello again. This is Monica Sharf. I'm here to introduce you to Nina Welch-Kling, an incredible photographer, award-winning, renowned internationally. I am going to invite her now. We'll try again. Okay. Not sure why this is not working. Um, I don't understand. Uh, Technology is not fun. I'm inviting her again. I don't know why this is not working. This is the second time it's happened like this. I'm not sure what's happening. Can someone send me a comment and let me know if you can see me or if it's a black screen? Somebody, uh, can somebody send me a note whether you can see me or if it's a black screen? Okay, Nina, here we go again. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening here. Oh my God,
Yay!
success. They know whenever I host, there's going to be an issue.
But we're here, so don't worry. We made
Yeah,
it.
yay. All right. So I just briefly told people a little bit about you, but maybe you want to start from the beginning and just give us a little background on, how you got started, what your impetus was, in terms of just being an incredible photographer that you are.
Sure. Sure. Thanks, Monica. Yeah, so I go back with my photography about 10, 12 years. And 10, 12 years ago, I really started from scratch. I mean, I have a fine art background and I have an architecture degree, which definitely helps in shaping the way I see the world. But in terms of technical knowledge and how to use a camera, I really started from scratch. So I took a lot of classes. I mean, I'm in New York. Luckily, there's ICP. There's lots of online classes you can take. So once I kind of discovered photography, I kept doing this, and so I'm not even sure now how long I've been doing street photography, but at some point I took a class on street photography, and I was obsessed, but not so much obsessed. Kind of, I mean, I love the idea of going out on the street, and it's so easily accessible, and I think any street photographer can kind of relate. If you have half an hour, you can just go outside. You can take your camera. I mean, at that time, my kids were both still living at home and they were in school. So I was always mom first, and my photography kind of had to fit the schedule. And then the older they got, now I'm really, full-time photography, but also with that came workshops and talks and online, whatever it was. So yeah, so it's taken over a lot of my time at this point, and which is wonderful. Not complaining, but it really started from a kind of, I mean, hobbyist to a really full-time photographer.
Um, if you, what did I wanted to say? Well, you sort of got into it already, but um, can you talk about, we had a talk, you and I, can you talk about your concept of a conceptual approach, um, just as a point of departure, and then where you want to end up? So explain to us how that works in your mind and how you translate that into an image.
Yeah, so I always say that my street photography is kind of, I don't think what people, well, I think my initial photography is definitely what people think of street photography. But to me, that photograph that I kind of start out with is just the beginning of what I feel like I want to do with it. So I think that most street photographers, and it's always hard to say most, but many street photographers, it's street photography is this one story in one frame, and you kind of capture it all. It's all the edges are covered, the frame is well composed, it captures some human condition, some moment in time. Now my photographs are more on the minimal side. I usually
Yeah.
capture singular objects that I'm interested. They're very cleanly composed. And then what I end up doing is that for my first book, Duologues, I took this photo and I combined it with another photograph. Now, diptychs is not something that I invented, but for some reason, it just really worked for me to continue telling a story once I'm at home at my computer to combine two images. Rhyming, in terms of color, in terms of composition, in terms of details. How can you go behind and create a new story out of two images that were taken at different points in time? And I love doing that. So it's a passion that I have. And it's, people's like, how much time do you spend on photographing? And then how much time do you spend on
Right.
putting these images together? And I said, depends. Sometimes it's almost the same amount of time when it's really cold out. I enjoy kind of going through my collections where there's a collections of this is possibly for a pair. I also get often asked, do you shoot for the pairs? Absolutely not. I kind of go out and whatever I, intuitively are attracted to, that's what I will take a photo of. But later, I will kind of very consciously put these pairs together. Now, I've been working on a different project, a newer. I mean, I've been working on it for almost 5 years now, so it's not really that new. My projects are usually long-term projects. They're not, like one season or so. They're really long-term projects. And so in rallentando, which means slowing down, it is more of a impressionistic capture of the environment. It's about the peripheral view and perception of when we go outside and what do we see and what do we overlook and the kind of impressions that we take home. And then again, I take these images and I kind of reassemble them in a sequence and create this other picture of it. And so this is why I kind of say I'm a conceptual street photographer, just because there is this other part to my practice that I enjoy. And now I'm actually, and I push this very far. So right now, you the images that I have are now turning into transparencies. They're turning into three-dimensional photographic objects. They're turning into videos. I'm almost too all over the place sometimes. It's hard to
Mm.
reel my ideas in and then make them all work. But that's just how my brain works, and that's how I enjoy, kind of figuring out my creativity and where should I go next with that. So I
Okay.
think, yeah.
So,
So I think that's a little bit of so this is why I said, street photography is my point of departure, meaning this is where I start, and my photos
right.
always start on the street. But then I don't even know where they end up.
So when you go out, forgive me for being like paring it down to the bare bones here. Do you have an idea when you go out of what you want to shoot that day? You land in a neighborhood and all of a sudden, stuff happens. How does that work?
There are some things that I consider, and I always say, the more kind of you have in your toolbox and more things you kind of have control over, the easier it is to find something interesting. So let's say it's a spring day and it's sunny, and I know that on Fifth Avenue on the east or north side, whatever side I'm in, east or west side of Fifth Avenue, where the sun is. And so I will kind of think about where I want to go by weather, by where I think I can find interesting people. But sometimes the most interesting shot is in, like around my neighborhood. So it's not, there are some things that I will consider, but then it's very intuitive. It is kind of going out and having your camera and focusing on things that you're interested in.
I know when I was a documentary filmmaker, I had the luxury of having a cameraman with me. So I was able to catch things. They were focused through the camera, but I was able to catch things and point them in the direction. But you are on your own with the camera. So how do you how are you able to, like, do you have peripheral vision this way?
I
How do
peripheral
you,
vision everywhere. No, I mean, you, of course, you kind of learn that you will always miss shots. There's things that you just like, oh, I should have been faster. What I think I am very aware of is that when I walk down a street, I kind of have this scanning skill where I look back and forth, like I see what people are doing in my head. I preemptively think, they might be turning right. There is the light. Let me just run in front of this corner. And I always say the skill is something that while growing up in Germany, I mean, I was born in Germany and I did not move to the US until I was in my 20s. What I was really good at is was sitting at a coffee shop and, spending time outside watching people. So people watching was really one of my biggest hobbies growing up. Yeah, not much else going on, clearly, but it served me well. So, so yeah, I think the ability to kind of see ahead and plan ahead and kind of scan ahead is something that is like half the fun for me. And people's like, how do you see that? I said,
yeah.
so I say, oh, there might be a light that I'm attracted to. And then some, they ask me, oh, so you're more of a fisher. There's like the fishing and the hunting in street photography. And I said, well, I'm kind of a fisher until I see something and then I go hunting. So you kind of go back and forth. So if I see someone over there and I said, oh, well, now that it's really cold and snowy on the ground, so I won't run as fast, but I will run after something that kind of just,
Oh,
gets me interested. I mean, there's this one shot and the balloon shot
here, hold on. I
that,
got it. I've got
yeah.
it. I have it.
So the balloon shot was a shot that I was photographing these skateboarders in this beautiful light. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see this giant pile of balloons going. And I'm like, oh my God. So I run after him. And what I notice in that minute that I run after him, that when the sunlight hits the balloons, they became translucent. Now, I am very interested in translucent objects, like things that are layered behind it that adds a lot of ambiguity to me, for me. And I'm always attracted to that. So I ran after this guy. And there's another shot that I call Urban Angel. And I think I followed this man for about 20 minutes until he delivered the balloons. So I
Wow.
will work really hard to, in my mind, kind of organize my frame, to think about where the light comes from, to what should be in the background, to kind of clarify my subject. And then that doesn't always happen because sometimes you have a second, but I will, if given the opportunity, spend a lot of time with the subject. I mean, they don't know. I think this man, after a while, I think he felt like I was very stalkerish. I mean, I was. I said to him, hey, I'm a photographer. I hope you don't mind. And usually people don't care. And they're friendly if you explain a little bit. But yeah, so I yeah, how do I find my subjects? You just find them. When you're out, you will find them. Sometimes better than others, I should say. There's always subjects. Some are better than others.
Yeah, but you have to have an eye. You have to have a gut feeling about a situation where you say, you look at the light against a building, against the street, or not everybody has that. And then um, uh, can you talk about light versus dark and the shadows, and how you're able to collect unrelated visual elements, uh, and bind them together so they become more than just ordinary objects or people on the street.
So my my love is really these very contrasty, my first love, I should say, is these, besides my husband, in case he's listening. So um the the very contrasty shots. So what I do is I look for these transitional areas where a very strong light hits a shadow. And I know that
This,
when well, this was this wasn't interesting because this was a little different because I saw the kind of translucency again against the when the light hit the flag, and then I saw the shadows. And in this photo, truly, a lot of things came together, and um, it was church had just let out, and so these people were walking down the street. It's also a very late. I think it was in the winter, so the shadows were very long, and they just kind of hit the flag right under it to capture that. But I was standing there for a couple of minutes. I kind of noticed the opportunity. It was because I had my camera with me. I was actually on the way to Pilates, and I was like, oh wow, let me just stand here for a little bit. And a couple of people came by, and that's how I captured it. But it is special because she's wearing high heels. They were very well dressed. They didn't wear a backpack, so the silhouettes are very clean. I mean, I get
kind of
so
fits us
frustrated.
for the light.
Yeah, so I get very frustrated that often people, most people will have a backpack, and the backpack is just, it turns a silhouette into some kind of hunchback. It's just not as elegant as I would like it to be.
Right.
So same with the cell phones. There's in my Instagram feed, if you look, there's not one um photo with a cell phone because it's just not interesting when people look down. So
Right.
the contrast photos is, technically speaking, and I'm not getting into that far, you basically just expose for the highlights. And once you expose for the highlight, when it's so contrasty, all of the background falls into darkness. So you have this kind of spotlight exposure or a spotlight light on the people that you're trying to illuminate. So that's kind of one way of how I like to shoot. It's a lot harder to get this, to find a subject to stand out when it's a gray day. But so sometimes I have a little flash on my camera. So then I will actually add a little fill flash to separate the person and the background and to create a similar effect. And then with my newer photos, it's actually very monochromatic. It's in color and it's very colorful. But that's the other side that I love, the kind of dreamy, people photograph often through rainy windows or the frosted windows or condensation or any of these things that create this beautiful barrier. Have always been attracted to. And so I think this is kind of why this series I've been working on kept my interest for so long, because there is a very different kind of beauty that the black and white show. It's just a different feeling.
Yeah. So when you shoot, you're shooting with a digital camera, right?
Hmm.
And you have different lenses that you use, or you walk out with just straight and you just start shooting.
It's a fixed lens, so
Okay.
on for the black and white, it's a very small fixed lens camera, 35 millimeter, so it's wide enough for me, or it's wide to shoot. I mean, that's just kind of my sweet spot. For the portraits, I I mean, it actually started during COVID, and I still wanted to go out and be like, I'm known to be very close, and I can go very close in my approach. So I have no fear of being close to people.
Uh-huh.
And so what happened was that I had a longer lens because I thought, during COVID, people don't want me so close. But
Right.
somehow I still went close, and this is why all these portraits are uncropped. They're very close just with a longer lens. And so then you have the blur of people coming by. So there's like different types of blur in these one shots because of the longer lens and the kind of different approach that I took. But again, I'm 2 feet, maximum 3 feet, 2 feet maybe away, 3 feet, to a point where I actually have to look whether my focal length can capture that close. Where
Ah,
sometimes I'm too close where it's out of focus, which I don't know. Most people have the opposite problem. They're like, I'm not close enough.
right.
I have no fear of being close to people. And I also, I think because I'm a female photographer and I'm friendly, and so I've not have a lot of issues in terms of people getting mad at me. I mean, it happens. I think it happens to all of us, and it's not fun just because it's this negative energy that when you're out, it's just kind of takes you out of your adrenaline goes, and it's where usually they kind of stop shooting for the day. And I remember those situations, when somebody got mad. But most of the time, it's really, I actually think when people get mad or when people say, "Hey, why are you shooting?" or "Why are you photographing me?" And I said, "Oh, you know what? You looked beautiful in the light, and it's just here. Let me see you." I find that people actually kind of grow because the everyday person on the street so rarely gets a compliment, and most of us don't feel
Right.
so good about how we look that day, or we have these negative feelings about ourselves. And when somebody says, "Oh my God, you looked so beautiful in this light," I mean, it's a genuine compliment. It's the translucency of your skirt or the way the sun just hit your ponytail. People feel good and they're like, "Oh my God, you made my day." And so it's the opposite, I think, of what people think. I mean, at least that's how I approach it, and that's what happens in my practice.
Yeah, well, I'm going to use that information, by the way. That's a really good
Try it.
approach.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
people really, because if they give you a look, as you just say, "Oh my God, you looked beautiful. Can I just show you?" And it's the opposite of really what they walk away with a little more pep in their step than being in a bad way. These are not models. These are not people that put themselves together to be photographed. And so when they
Right.
hear this kind of compliment, I think it puts really positive energy into the world, and
Yeah.
not the negativity. And I think we all need a little positivity right now.
Oh, understatement.
Right.
Um, so I'm playing off of what you had, some quotes you had on your website, and how are you able to commingle? There's a lot of poetic elements to your work and very concrete elements to your work. So it's kind of like the elements of literal, the random, and the ambiguous. Can you sort of translate that for us in terms of how your photographs come out actually after you're able to mingle all of those sort of esoteric elements?
Well, I think I'm always interested in transforming the everyday that you see with my camera and with my eyes into something else, into something where people stop and say, "Wow, I would have never seen it this way." So I'm not out on the street to record. I mean, if there's some humor, I mean, there are some pairs that are humorous or some photographs that are humorous, but most of the time it's a respectful being. Like, I think I try to be very respectful of people and show them maybe in a little bit of a funny light, but I think that's one thing. I think so that's kind of the concrete part, but I always like to show something else, something that elevates them into a point of view or a vision that you might not have seen, and you probably wouldn't have seen because you would see
Right.
something else equally valuable. But that's my approach. So whether I photograph through a piece of glass, or using the light, or using the snow, or using the elements, or using a reflection, it doesn't matter what you use. That to me is really, really important. So the sense of ambiguity, which kind of gives you this outer worldly feeling, like the balloons.
Right.
I mean, they feel like they're floating and the person is not there. So what you as a viewer bring to the photo is your story, because I'm giving you a lot of room to interpret it your way, not my way. I mean, I saw it and I photographed it, but I don't know what you're going to think about it. But hopefully it gives room for an internal conversation and not immediately tell you what I mean to say, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, because my question would be is, what's the end result? What do you want people to walk away with after seeing your photos? What kind of an emotional experience do you is your intention, or if there's maybe no intention?
I mean, I think I don't take the photos intentionally to tell you what to take away,
Right.
but I think in my photos, I really want to give you that space to create your own story, to step back. It's like, oh my God, I did not see this, or I would have not seen it that way. Or I think, especially when you put two photos next to each other, what happens is that your story that you create, I put it out there next to each other on purpose, right? I mean, after you see three of them, this wasn't an accident.
Right.
So you try to figure out what I saw, but you have no idea. So whatever you will see is what um your story will become a different story, and they're all valid. And so I like that kind of game. It's almost like, when you read a book, or the characters in your head. I think that's why often when you see a movie, the characters in your head that you've when you read a book, the characters in your head are often much more colorful and very different than when a movie is then filmed. And it's
Right.
often disappointing, because you know what, your mind is so much more creative and so much more open to explore this. And I think that's what I would like people to take away. And also, I think if they look at my work and say, you know what, I wouldn't have seen this, or if they listen to me talk, if they see something a little bit different, that makes me happy.
There was a question that came up about the what kind of camera you use. I think you might have mentioned it, but maybe this person just joined. Could you talk just a little bit about the actual physical equipment?
Yeah, so I use a very so I the my street photos currently, they're the Fuji X100V. Um, but you could, any small compact camera will do, like a Q, all of them will do the same. It's just a small, unintrusive object where people aren't threatened by it. I think when you go with a longer lens, it's a different kind of photo.
Right. Right.
Um, the Rallentando I shot with a longer lens. I think it was a 60 to 120, maybe. I mean, I would have to look it up. I'm not the best technical person to talk to. I know how to get my shots the way I want them sometimes.
Okay, so let's see so can you talk a little bit about where you were when you first started and where you are today and kind of where you see yourself going? You talked about this project you're working on, and how has your perspective, your point of view changed in terms of your relationship to the world through your lens?
I think initially it was kind of going out and responding to whatever I saw. And I think that was a perfectly fine approach, because you know what? It takes a while. It takes many, many shots to get the focus you want, to get the exposure you want, to get the contrast you want. And once you have that down, now one reason I end up with these projects is also that I'm still taking classes. Like I've been in the same with the same teacher for I think 9 years. And I take a class once a week. This is 2 semesters a year.
Wow.
And I love to always keep getting feedback and criticism and, where should this project go? And is this wasting my time? And not wasting my time, but often, we kind of go out and we respond to everything. So we only have so much time. So where do you want to spend your time? So I try to be more defined in what I'm looking for. Sometimes I say, okay, if it's a great day, I don't want to go out photographing. You know what? I have so many other things I need to do. But then I will maybe take my other. So two projects work well for me because one is kind of a gray day project. The other one is a um, bright, contrasty day project. And then I shoot in between. I mean, I go back and forth all the time. And then, when I go out photographing, I was like, this is what I love doing. This is where I feel happiest when I'm out photographing. Excuse me. But so how did it change? I think now I'm trying to be more focused in terms of what a project is. But now I'm kind of looking for a new project. And so unless I go out and discover something new that I want to kind of play off from or that could develop into something else, I don't know what my next project will be. But unless I go out and experiment and try new lenses or try a new neighborhood or try a new perspective, just literally put a new lens on visually, and I don't know, it just kind of develops, but you have to go out and do it. So I think now I'm I also, because I'm planning an exhibition right now, I'm planning two workshops. I have a lot of other things happening, which takes away time from the part that I love the most, which is the photographing, but it just becomes, I mean, it's the good and the bad. It's like
Right.
you want to be able to show your work, but then having to show your work comes with the printing, comes with the exhibition, comes with all these other bureaucratic things that most of us don't like. And I hate them. And I'm not good in writing artist statements. So I will force myself to rewrite for the hundredth time my artist statement. Hate it. Torturous. But you know what? In order to have that project, in order to submit this, you need to write this. You need to do this.
I know. It's all of the stuff that's around it
Right.
that
It's
has
all
to.
this stuff that that's not what I actually just see. Kathleen Clemens just sent me a heart, and I have to do a quick hi to her because I started out as a flower photographer. And
Really?
yes, I was doing flower photography, and she was my really first teacher. And she's this lovely, lovely woman that for years she taught me so much in terms of how to approach and how to see. And you know what? Flowers are just amazing models because they're very patient, and so you can really fine tune what you need, like your exposure, and you expose manually, and all of that I learned. So Kathleen, even so you're not a street photographer, I love that you're here.
Oh, that's
Yes.
so great. Let me just see. Um, what was probably the most challenging? She sent you three hearts.
She's lovely. Anybody who wants to do flower photography, she is the best.
Well, um,
I've been lucky. I've been really lucky because I've had a lot of wonderful teachers. I just have to, like
oh,
so the other teacher I've been talking about, my mentor is Christopher Scelio, who through ICP, who I trust with his opinion, even so sometimes it's hard to hear the truth about your photos. But it pushes you to do other things or to so yeah, so teachers are really important. And I think now that I just started teaching street photography workshops, I try to remember how important it is to have a teacher that kind of shows you the right way, or boosts your confidence. And, when you don't feel good about your photos, that you still go out the next day and you keep trying until you get it right. So shout
Well,
out to all my teachers.
oh, but that's awesome. You're doing workshops. Where are you doing them out of?
So I'm teaching one in Venice in September,
Wow.
and it's called Photo Venezia. And yeah, I'm very excited because I think the light and the reflection and being in Venice for 4 days will be amazing.
Well,
So that's going to be fun. And that is it's they used, or they only had once a year a like I think a photo festival. Sorry, it was a photo festival, and now they're expanding their program. So they asked me to teach one of their classes, and then another class I teach is with Guido. I shouldn't say Guido; it's Guido. So shoot like a local, and we will be teaching that in New York. We taught that the first time together last October. It'll be in October, and it was really fun because the two of us are the most opposite people you can have as teachers. And I think that made it really fun because I learned from him. He's like, wait, I
right.
never even looked at photography this way. And I think our students really, got like the best of both worlds. And in the end, I think we all had good sense of humor. So there's a lot of laughter and I think a lot of learning and building community again. It's, I learn from the people that are in my workshops just as much as they learn from me. Sometimes like,
Right.
how did you do that? I want that. So I don't have the answers. Yeah, so
um,
that'll be exciting.
I have to show this picture.
Yeah, so this photo, which is very interesting, I think, was shot at the Mermaid Parade, I think 2 years ago. And it was a truly, truly, truly hot day. I think it was like 100 degrees, it was 90. And I mean, it's usually hot, but it was just unbearable. And I don't do well when it's really hot in the sun. I mean, like after an hour, I'm done. So then I thought, oh, there is this beautiful light at the subway station. It's a skylight. And let me just kind of go there and see who walks by. So again, it's looking for these light situations. And so I stood there and this woman came by, and what I like about it is that it does not scream Mermaid Parade. It kind of
No.
again leaves this, like I said, on Carnival, but her shoes are very everyday. Like, where is she going? And so when I talk about this kind of ambiguity and taking something that could be a photo of someone in a costume, I try to transform it into for the viewer to have their own story. And I don't know when you saw that photo, what story you interpreted into that photo, because you didn't know that, where it was and how we
No.
talked about it a little bit. So maybe you want to talk about what you saw in it, because I think it's always interesting what the viewer sees.
Well, I was just attracted to the lines, the light, the way, the angle you shot it at. That's kind of where and it's so abstract, and which is great because you're not showing the full costume. You're just showing the lower half of this person. And it pops from the background. And so that's what attracted me to this photograph. I didn't really think about the story. I was just looking at the way that you executed it
It
and the
is so
way it
interestingly when if I put this next to another photo now, and I'll probably use it in some diptych at some point, that story will change because I will guide you to a very different point of perspective, which is what diptychs do, because it takes something out of context or, gives it like a temporal, like a shot that I took 5 years ago and a shot that I took yesterday. And I
right.
put them next to each other. And the story is a story that's now. It wasn't yesterday shot. It wasn't 5 years. It's a new story. And so I think that's why I have so much fun with that.
Yeah, it's just what you do is you extract the world in sort of like a timeless fashion, and it can be at any time, any place, but it's almost frozen in time, but there's motion in it. I can't really explain it other than that, what I see, when I see your photographs. We're getting close. Uh, do you, can you talk about like maybe the most challenging moments, or is there one in particular, some kind of very emotional event in your life when you were photographing that you want to talk about?
Wow, I didn't know we had therapy session now.
No. Uh,
You know, I can, me, I don't know during when there's always two things. I think there's one part when you go out and you photograph something and you think it was something special. So that kind of feeling of butterflies in your stomach and this kind of excitement is really hard to duplicate, because
right.
at that moment you really think, wow, this was such I can't believe I captured that. Now, that does not mean when you get home that it's still the same feeling. I find that often those butterfly moments are less butterfly when I come home. It's like out of focus, or somehow whatever I saw on my little screen just wasn't really what. But at that moment, I think emotionally that is such a wonderful feeling when you're out photographing. And then I can also talk about, so right now I'm getting ready to go and show my work at PhotoFest portfolio review. And that is like a whole other, we could spend a whole nother hour on that.
Right.
And I went back and forth whether I should go. And then, and for the reasons that I thought, oh, I'm not ready. And I've done plenty of portfolio reviews. And I truly went back and forth. And then another teacher of mine said to me, you're just afraid of rejection. And I said, you're probably damn right. Who likes rejection? Nobody does. But you know what? I'm going to put my big girl pants on and I'm going to go and I'm going to have fun. So there's, so that fear of rejection and that fear of the work that you put out there. Everyone, because they're so close to us. This is work we do. This is work that is so close to our hearts. Nobody wants this to get. I mean, you learn to get better at it's part of being an artist. But so there's always these two, and this so there's the joy of the moment of having a photo, or the joy of a discovery, and then you have always the insecurity and fear of what are you doing next, or is this a good photo, or is this good enough? And in the end, you know what, we do this because or I love photography. So when I have these moments of butterflies, I think that's worth so much more than all the fear of rejection and of not doing well. So I don't know if that is
No,
emotional
no,
enough for you.
definitely. I can relate. There was a time where I had five cameramen with me, and I was filming the Veterans Day parade when it wasn't that popular, during the Iraq Afghani war. And I had each
Hmm.
cameraman focus on a specific element of the parade, like the people, the hands, the feet. And there was a big flag that was walking down Fifth Avenue that was held on either side by like six people. So I threw one cameraman on the ground and had them walk over him. And walking away from that shoot was the biggest high in my entire
Right.
life. It's just the energy was just flood. I wish I could put that in a bottle and carry it with me. So I completely understand the moment. It came out well,
Right.
actually, but you know,
No, but I mean, you don't know, but that doesn't even matter, because at that moment, you feel like you did your best and you got something special. And if it's not that special, so be it. But that I really do think that, this is why we being an artist, like you have these highs and these lows, and it's just, I don't know, it's still so worth it.
um, yeah, you've answered a lot of the questions. Let me see. You already talked about color versus black and white. But if there's anything, I've noticed a lot about your photographs that you're not photographing people dead on, that there's always, you're shooting from behind or on the side. And forgive me if I've missed something, but there's an incredible sense of leaving you wanting to know more about the scene, and with the two sailors, the low angle shots that the way where your camera lands is just so much more dynamic than a lot of just straight on shooting and capturing a moment in the street. Is there
Thank
anything?
you. Well, I think that's part of the ambiguity that I always look for. Because if I show you the face, and you know what, there are some faces, like there's the face of the guy in the snow, like that I
Right,
just posted, where it's like the snow is in your face, like the face is there. But often, yes, or like the woman with the red hat that, like has been published quite a bit. It just kind of gives you the opportunity to interpret it the way you want and leaves it open. And I mean, I think a lot of my inspiration when you look at Hitchcock movies, where the not showing is showing more than actually showing it.
right.
So that's kind of what I grew up with. So that kind of mystery and that kind of film noir-ish, and even so, I don't think my work is really film noir, but that's the idea, is that what you're not showing is really what interests me. So
Yeah.
leaving that kind of open space is and yeah, so I think that's a lot of it is about that.
Well, it's definitely translated. I see that, and that's what attracts me to it. It is the noir component of life. Even if you have a color shot, you still have that essence of partial mystery. Like just very dramatic without being self-conscious.
You see, I
You
think what's interesting is, like, this is just that is my language, and I think people can identify my shots fairly easily, or I mean, that's my advantage. But that is also the criticism of my work, that it is taken out of context, that you aren't seeing the nitty gritty of the city. That so it's you're like, really? No, I mean,
No, no, no. But
but
I don't
I
see
hear,
anything wrong with that.
no,
I
it's
mean,
nothing wrong, but but I think these are interesting conversations to have too. It's like, what is the kind of as an essence of the work. And I would never change it, because my language is the more simple, graphic, photograph graphic, the ambiguous but more abstract. I mean, it's pushing towards abstraction. And yeah, so it's yeah, I mean, either you like it or you don't.
right. Well, that goes with
With
everything.
most things.
Everything in life, right? Everything in life. But you
Absolutely.
have you have a vision in your head, and it's a very distinctive style. And I don't think there's anything other than it being just wonderful because of what it is. You're true. You seem to be extremely authentic to your vision, and it comes across. It really
Thank
does.
you. Thank you
Do
so
you
much.
want to have any words of wisdom? Any thoughts you want to give us in terms of inspiration or uh, to teach us for the last few minutes that we
I,
have?
I think I think the most important part is keep trying and keep discovering and find the joy in what you do. And I'm not saying it's all joyous, but hopefully there's enough moments of butterflies, that when you go out, that you have them, and that's what you hold on to. And I also think, when you go out, and I think especially now, or at any time in your life, when there's so much going on in in our families, or whatever happens, I find when I go out with my camera, this kind of falls away, because I'm so concentrating on what's in front of me. And this kind of singular focus activity, which I always, it's my meditation. But I really do feel that when you do that, you do forget that what else you have to do. And you take, even if it's 15 minutes, like take your camera, do take the time, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes, whatever you can give it, and go out. And the discoveries you will make over time tell you a lot about your style and who you are as a photographer, because you will come home over and over with similar images, and you will be attracted to similar imagery, and something will crystallize. And the more you do that, the easier it gets to kind of identify who you are as a photographer. I don't know if that's a
No,
pearl
that's
of
really,
wisdom,
that's
but
great. Yeah. It's the not giving up part.
it's the never giving up part. And that's so easier said than done. But look, if I would share, I think I should, like, at some point, like, share like my first street photos and
Oh,
what they looked like. They were not, there was, they were just being out. And then you're like, oh, how do I do this? How do I get better? Like, take workshops, find teachers that you like, find teachers that support you, that, make you feel good about your work, and push you to keep going and explore other things. I think that's, all we can do, all we should do. And not everybody has to go the route of becoming or making this a more professional part of your life. I think just the joy of being outside and observing the world is a lot in a time when we are all on our phones and not
right.
connecting with people. It's still a connection when you're out with your camera.
Yeah. Well,
So
it's a
there.
different, it gives
So
a
there.
different perspective.
You wanted my pearls of wisdom. There you have it.
I'm making a necklace. I'm serious.
You should.
Well, thank you so much for all your
Of
time
course, of
and your
course.
wisdom and
My
sharing.
pleasure. My pleasure always.
And
Thank you for
thank you,
having me.
everyone, for joining us. It's been exciting and just thrilling. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Nina.
so much,
All
Bonnie.
right.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye now.